Because, see, when you go to a job and you already know how far you can go, you can already see that proverbial glass ceiling. It's like going to a movie when you've gone in the middle of the movie and you've seen the end and you sit there to start all over again, but something is missing. You know what the outcome is going to be. You can't get excited about going through that movie all over again. Am I correct? See, when you're going someplace and you already know how much you're going to make, you already know how far you can go, you're in a dead-end position. It erodes your self-esteem. It lowers your sense of yourself. It creates an inner turmoil. It creates an emptiness in you. So I say that your life is worth finding what it is that you're supposed to do. And I'm not saying quit your job. I'm saying find it and do just a little bit of it. When I wanted to become involved in speaking, I started just learning quotes, listening to other people's tapes, going to seminars, going to workshops, asking other people to help me. Just start working at it just a little bit, but do find out what your work is and hold on to it and don't let your dream go. Don't let it go. See, and here's something else I want you to begin to look at. Why is it that most people don't pursue their dreams or don't do better than what they're doing if they're capable of doing it? I think that many of us don't go the next step because we don't know what to do yet. And I say that the reason that we don't even explore the possibility of what to do is because subconsciously we don't believe that it can happen for us and we don't believe that we deserve it. That's what Henry David Thoreau meant when he said that most people go through life in quiet desperation. They're miserable. I have friends who married for years, live in 2 different rooms. Why would you live like that? I mean, miserable, don't even talk to each other, grumble. I think that was supposed to mean good morning. Miserable, just making each other miserable. Why live like that? People go to work like that. I said, why even show? I used to work with a guy like that. You couldn't say good morning to him before 9 o'clock. He'd look around and say, does he know me? Anybody know me? No, you don't talk to me before 9 o'clock. I don't play that, all right? I mean, there are people like, how many ever work with people that are just grumps? Raise your hand, just miserable. Why show up? Come in complaining every day. The best day on the job is when they're absent. Am I right? So this is where Joe was. So this doctor told Joe, hey man, you're going to die with this brain cloud. And you know something? All of Joe's other illnesses left. Joe decided to live. Joe decided to live his life. Now that is interesting. A psychiatrist did a study and he was talking about how his patients reacted when they got information that they were going to die immediately. He said that many of these patients that had gone through years of therapy that should have been making decisions about their careers, or about their marriage, or about their circumstances, and somehow or another they were stuck and didn't have the personal power or the wherewithal or the willpower to act in their own best interest. But when they were told, listen, you got 3 months to live or you got 6 months to live, all of a sudden these people who were initially victims or powerless, all of a sudden they started acting in their own best interest. They started living their lives. And it's amazing to me that what a paradox, that once people are told they're going to die, all of a sudden they start seeing the daisies in life. They start seeing the beauty in life.
Morning is the beginning of something fresh and something new. And many of us spend all of our time dragging stuff that we should have put to bed the night before, the day before, the week before, and pronounce a benediction upon it. But what do? We drag it, and the next morning is the same drama. I always say do different, get different. And when it comes to you commending your morning, you've got to understand that the morning also brings light to something when the concepts that you are dealing with is difficult.
Every single person has a choice at every single moment. It may be just varying degrees of difficulty in those choices, but you always have a choice. You can always change.
You put in 120% every time, or you don't put in nothing, because listen to me very closely. Today, this opportunity you have, it might not be here next year. It might not be here the year after next. It might not be here the year after that. This is the only moment you got, and you better take advantage of this particular moment.
And in regards to laziness, I think it's a very important thing to understand that as humans, we have this ability to think that everything we experience, all the emotions, are very much unique to us. But you have to understand that every single person in the world suffers from the same problems. Everyone is by default lazy. It is the easiest thing to do. It requires no energy, no effort.
I kind of grew up in that space that is dangerous because it's like a slow asphyxiation, right? I grew up what I'd call like middle class, but probably the lower side of middle class too. So I think I've told you this, I think there's an advantage sometimes to growing up rich because you got connections and you see the right behaviors modeled maybe. When you're poor, a lot of my buddies that are successful now that were poor, they knew what they didn't want. They were fighting, they learned to struggle. They grew up sooner, right? They couldn't make excuses. They had to learn to be self-resilient. The middle's difficult because good's the enemy of great, right? And so it wasn't horrible. It wasn't like there wasn't food on the table. It wasn't like I didn't get a present on my birthday, right? So you kind of start to think that's what life is. No one in my family ever talked about dreaming or winning or being wealthy. Same time, we weren't really running from something either. So there was no stimulus. The stimulus when you're poor is to get out of there. The stimulus when you're rich is to replicate it. There was no stimulus from where I'm from. And so probably the rarest background when you meet somebody that's successful is the middle. It's actually the rarest that you meet somebody, they're from the middle. And so a lot of your listeners come from that place because most people are in the middle, right? And so I'm sort of, I think, an example of some of the things maybe you would need to do to get out of that space to move from good to some form of greatness in your life.
Yeah. It's comfort, right? That word comfort can be a killer, right?
So
and so that's exactly why I wanted you to point that out, is because so many of us do come from that, and also we're maybe existing in it right now.
So true.
And how important is it to stretch ourselves and to really kind of get comfortable with discomfort?
You need to do that. Malcolm X is a guy that I've read a lot about, and Malcolm X, my favorite quote of Malcolm X is that which you do not hate, you will eventually tolerate. And so there has to be this point in your life where what you want is so much greater than where you are. You're in such discomfort. In other words, the gap between what you're dreaming of, what you're destined to do, what you're capable of, you're aware of it compared to where you are. That tension between the two has a pull power to it, right? And so it's important all the time that wherever you are in life that you're chasing that next version of you. There's this thing I'm just unbelievably passionate about, that is that I have this theory that I've told you this before, but that I think that at the end of your life, there's this place you come to. And I'm a Christian, so I think at the end of my life, I want the Lord to go, hey, well done, good and faithful servant. It doesn't matter what your faith is. You probably are aware there's history being made or an accounting. But I also think he's going to go, hey, by the way, this is who you could have been. I think he introduces you to the person you are capable of becoming. I really believe that at the end of your life, you're going to get introduced to the person you could have been, you were destined to be, that he made you to be. And so I'm chasing that dude. Every day I'm chasing that dude. That's the pull power for me. Every decision I make, the things I go through in my life, whether I'm gonna go to the gym, whether I'm gonna make a phone call, how I'm gonna eat, does it get me closer to that guy? Because I think the best end of a life is well done by the Lord, and you're identical twins with that person. The bad end of a life would be, I meet this man I could have been, and we're total strangers. I mean, we're just complete opposites. I know nothing about this guy. There's no familiarity at all. And it means that I went down these easy roads. I took the comfortable road. The comfortable road will never lead you to the person you are destined to be, ever in your life. And so if you don't become obsessed with chasing that person, you end up never meeting him.
Now is the time to take risks. You don't have kids. As you get older, your obligations increase. And once you have a family, you start taking risks not just for yourself, but for your family as well. It gets much harder to do things that might not work out. So now is the time to do that before you have those obligations. So I would encourage you to take risks now, to do something bold.
If you want to control your own destiny, you work for yourself. That's how it works. I'm trying to inspire those of you who are on the tipping point. Take the chance, you're young. Go for it. There's nothing better than being able to wake up in the morning 10 years or 20 years from now and do whatever you like.
You could choose to either accept that you lost, or you could choose to use it as a lesson to improve, okay? And winners in life, people who do well in life, just like football, when they lose, when they get their butts kicked, like you guys did, they say, all right, hey, look, I didn't do as good as I could have done. I didn't prepare properly. I didn't execute properly. I didn't run the plays properly. And you know what? That's why we lost. But this week, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say, all right, A, B, C, we're not going to do those things. We're going to prepare properly. We're going to execute properly. And we're not going to give up early or ever. If you guys want to be great at what you do, you have to understand that when you lose, that's an opportunity to improve. When things happen bad, that's not the time that you go sit over in the corner and feel sorry for yourself and make excuses as to why you lost. You got to own the reasons that you lost.